Welcome to the fourth and final video on Microsoft Access. In the previous videos, you learned how to create tables, add and remove data, and define sorts and filters for the data in a table. In this video, you learn how to define queries and reports. Queries are objects used to combine, sort, and subset data from one or more tables. Queries are often used to answer questions about the data in the database. Reports are just what you might expect, printed documents used to display data from a database. And queries and reports often go together. You can create a query to retrieve certain data that you need from a database, and then create a report that presents the data from the query in a more readable form. Let's start by creating a query that lists cookies sold. It will include the buyer's name, seller's name, sale date, type of cookie, and price. These data items are spread across these three tables. Our query will combine data from all three tables. Note, we can only do this because we defined the relationships that you see here in an earlier video. If we hadn't defined these relationships, we wouldn't be able to combine the data from multiple tables. To create a query, go to the Create tab and select Query Wizard. I'll click OK to select a simple query. The next dialog box is used to select the fields from the various tables that will be included in the query. From the Customers table, I want first name and last name. From the Orders table, I want seller name and order date. From order detail, I want item description and price. And at this point, you might be wondering, how did I know which fields to select for this query? Well, the fields you select are based on the purpose of the query. In this case, I'm interested in knowing who sold what to whom. If on the other hand, I was looking for data that could be used to, say, distribute cookies to buyers, I might choose different fields. For example, I would probably include the buyer's phone number. I'm done with this dialog box, so I'll select Next. Here I'll accept the default, which is to show details. I'm going to change the name of the report to August Sales. I'm naming it August Sales because in the next step, we're going to add selection criteria in Design View. You can always change the name of a query, or any other object for that matter, by right-clicking it and selecting Rename. Using the Query Wizard, you get a basic query. I'm going to switch to Design View in order to make some additional tweaks to this basic query. To enter Design View, go to the Home tab, the View icon, and select Design View. Let's say I only want to see orders made on or after August 1st. Going back to the datasheet view for a moment, I can see this selection criteria will exclude these two orders that were made in July. Now I'll go back to Design View. To select certain records from a query, enter the selection criteria in the criteria row in the proper field. I'm going to select records where order date is greater than or equal to August 1st. Note when I entered the date, I surrounded the date with the pound symbol. When I run the query, you can see the records from July are now excluded. I want to make more modifications to the query, so I'll go back to the Design View. I want to sort the records based on seller. To sort on a field, click in the Sort row in the column for the field that you want to sort. From here you can select Ascending or Descending. I'll select Ascending. Now when you run the query, we can see that the results are sorted. Of course, the selection criteria that we defined earlier still applies. When I close the report, it'll ask if I want to save my changes. I'll click Yes. The second topic of this video is creating reports. The features Access provides for creating reports has a reputation for being difficult to work with. With this in mind, we're going to focus on simple reports that can be created from the data in a single table. When creating a report, it's important to decide up front what you want your report to look like. Otherwise, the tools are going to be that much more difficult to work with. For this example, I'm going to create a report that lists information from the customers table. The report will list customer name and phone number. To create a report, go to the Create tab and select Report Wizard. There are other ways to create a report, but using the Report Wizard is probably the easiest for beginners. I'm going to use the wizard to create a basic report and then go into Design View to add some finishing touches. It's kind of like what we did for the query. On this first screen, you specify the data items you want to include on the report. From the customer table, I'll select first name, last name, and phone number. The next dialog box asks if I want grouping levels. There isn't much in the data to group on, so I'll select Next without adding any groupings. This dialog box is asking me to specify a sort order. Here I'll specify to sort by last name and then by first name. Tabular and portrait seem right, so I'll click Next. Now it's asking me for a name. I'll name it Customer Contact Info. As you can see, the basic report looks pretty good. I'm going to switch to Design View in order to add a few minor tweaks though. Right now we're in Print View, so I'm going to close out of this, and this will take us to Design View. Notice how the report is organized in Design View. There's a section for the report heading. This prints at the top of the first page. There's a section for page header, and it prints at the top of each page. There's a detailed section. It prints for each record from the database or query, because you can create reports from queries. Our report is from a database. There's also a page footer and a report footer. As you might expect, page footer prints at the bottom of each page, and report footer is going to print at the end of the report. The first change I want to make is to center the title and change the value to all customers. Next, I'm going to reorder the column headings so first name appears before last name. And I need to do the same for the components in the detailed section, because the header sections just specify the labels. The detailed section determines what's printed for each row, and we need to make sure that the right information is printed in each column. Finally, I'm going to make a simple change to one of the column headings just to demonstrate how that works. The default column labels come from the field names in the database. Often these will need to be changed in order to make the report more readable. Let's see what this looks like. Well, that looks pretty good, but I don't particularly want alternate rows highlighted. It might be nice if we had a long row of data, but this report isn't wide enough to make it useful. To get rid of this, I'll switch back to Design View and select the Detailed section and select the Property Sheet. Notice as I select different components on the report, the attributes of the Property Sheet change. The Property Sheet is context sensitive. It shows the properties for the selected object or component on the report. I'll click back in the Design section. I can get rid of the alternate shaded lines by selecting No Color for the alternate back color property. Let's see what that looks like. It's a work of art. If I wanted to at this point, I could send the result to the printer by selecting File, Print, Print Preview, and then the print icon. Well, that's a wrap. I hope you've enjoyed these 4 videos and learned something along the way. Knowing how to use Access is one way that you can distinguish yourself among your peers. Many professionals know Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but far fewer know how to set up a simple database in Access. Take the time to learn Access, and you'll have an additional tool for managing the growing volume of information that you find around you.